Former President Obama recently came out of the woodwork to congratulate himself. Here he is touting the Affordable Care Act, which he signed into law 15 years ago.
It can feel like a different era sometimes, but 15 years ago, I signed the Affordable Care Act into law.
That's it.
The goal back then was to establish that here in America, healthcare is not just a privilege, but a right for every single American. When the Obama Presidential Center opens on the south side of Chicago next year, visitors will have a chance to hear from some of the folks who made the ACA a reality. With everything going on right now, it's easy to feel like regular folks can't change this country for the better. But if it could happen 15 years ago, it can happen again. Now it's up to all of us to keep building on and improving the ACA until everyone has access to quality, affordable health coverage. When you visit the Obama Center in 2026, I hope you leave ready to keep making a difference.
Obama's reappearance garnered some mixed reactions. A super viral post, 45 million and counting, from a doctor named Dan Choi reads, "One of my biggest regrets was voting for President Obama in 2008 as a medical student and celebrating the passage of the Affordable Care Act. Little did I know the carnage it would wreak on the medical profession and my future patients. I had no idea then that the ACA was written to strip physicians of their autonomy, boost insurer profits, and drive healthcare consolidation. End result 15 years later is a more expensive healthcare system with less competition, resulting in lower quality, less efficient care for patients. Coverage is not the same thing as care."
Florida State Congresswoman, on the other hand, wrote, "Thanks to the ACA, insurance companies cannot deny coverage to anyone with heart disease, diabetes, or any other pre-existing condition. Floridians value healthcare.gov coverage options as more of our neighbors are enrolled than in any other state."
President of the Libertas Institute and author Connor Boyack wrote, "Just like the Patriot Act was unpatriotic, the Affordable Care Act made healthcare less affordable." What do you think, Marianne?
I think, as someone on the left side of the spectrum, I have a lot of resentment of that video from former President Obama. First of all, he said that ACA proves that healthcare is a privilege. It's not a privilege, it is a right. It absolutely does not do that. We have between 70 and 90 million Americans who are underinsured or uninsured. We are the only advanced nation, not just advanced democracy, we're the only advanced nation, Robby, that does not have universal health care. We have tens of millions of people who go to the doctor. Yes, the coverage will allow them the visit to the doctor, but it does not allow them the prescriptions. 18 million Americans cannot afford the prescriptions that doctors give them, cannot afford the tests that the doctors say they need, cannot afford the operations the doctors say they need. I have met many doctors who have said, I don't even know why I bother to practice medicine anymore. Somebody comes in, but they can't afford the care that I need to give them. So what we need, and by the way, it was also Barack Obama who suppressed, even though when he was running, he said that he supported universal health care. Once he got in, actually in those 2010 midterms, he actually had said that he would not go out and campaign for anyone who was even mentioning a public option. So all of that is a distraction for me. Of course, I don't want the government determining my care, not that that's what happens there, but neither should the insurance companies. So doctors have not been stripped of their autonomy by the ACA any more than they have been stripped of their autonomy by insurance companies. Those insurance companies, as the middleman, should be obliterated. That function, all of this has to do, whether it has to do with Democrats or Republicans, with giving in, caving to the profit-making desires of the insurance companies. And I think that if the Democratic Party had stood for universal health care, a majority of Americans, a majority of Republicans as well as Democrats, not as big a majority, but also a majority of Republicans support Medicare for all. That's where we need to be going. This incremental approach represented by ACA is not enough. There's 1 in 4 Americans living with medical debt in this country. No other country, no other advanced democracy or advanced country, do you have people putting up GoFundMe pages on the internet to pay for life-saving operations for themselves and their children. We have 1.3 million Americans who are insecure with rationing their insulin. This is absolutely wrong, and the American people need to stand up for universal health care, Medicare for all, and that's, by the way, what would win a presidential election.
No other advanced nation spends this much public funding on
Absolutely.
healthcare coverage. It would be one thing if we were spending this much and getting great
and
care.
getting better
and
results.
or it would be another thing, you'd say, well, we're not spending enough if we just had a terrible
No.
mission. But we spend plenty. It just does not translate to better care.
That's
but
correct.
somebody is gobbling up that money, and I suspect it's insurance companies like you.
Who are then donating to our politicians.
Yeah, so there are a lot of problems I have with the system where we use a kind of hybridized system that I think gives you maybe the worst of both worlds, because it is it has aspects of it. The insurance they're companies, they're not the government themselves, and so there's that aspect of the market. Although there's not true market competition because the price of it is disguised because of the way the coverage works. It's mandatory and the price is disguised, and so they can charge whatever doctors charge more, and the insurance company pays for it, and it all goes to them without you understanding. Oh, well, that costs too much. I'll go get it from someone else, and then you would lower prices. But it also has the drawbacks of a government system in terms of there being a lot of protections for the industry, a lot of over-regulation actually of drugs and patent protection that makes everything so much more expensive. That's a real problem where we probably agree that, like, I think insulin, you should be able to have, you should introduce competition to that. The price of it would drop in an instant, but it's protected by the only company or the handful of companies that are allowed to make it.
Also, if you see how much it costs to actually produce a vial of insulin versus what the costs are, this is endemic of the worst mistakes of the Democratic Party. ACA was the insurance companies saying to then President Obama, you can go this far and no further. And as was mentioned, it's actually a payout to the insurance
And it did result, I know people, I remember writing stories about people, because Obama, he lied when he said if you like your plan, you can keep your plan. That was not the case. Many, many, many Americans ended up then being dumped from health care plans that they had chosen and were perfectly happy with as a result of the consolidation and the government determining that this plan no longer meets our standards for what counts as minimal coverage. People who are perfectly happy with the health care they had being told by the government, no, that's not good enough, we don't want that for you. So that was a central lie. Even liberal-leaning fact checkers have concluded that he did lie, or at least misled the public when he said that. So it was a greater government takeover of what kind of care is acceptable without being the kind of system. I agree that it's not the system that you want and that people on the left want, in which it would just be it's all paid for by the government.
There are millions of Americans who go to jobs that they absolutely hate for no other reason than it's the only way that they can get health care benefits. If we were to truly liberate people in this country, and universal health care would be liberating people, not only from all kinds of physical stress, but mental stress that goes along with that. If we were to give people the kinds of education, higher education opportunities that they have in every other advanced nation, there would be such an explosion of creativity and talent, and yes, the money making that goes along with that. That would be the greatest boost to our economy that we could have. So the fact that in 2025 we are still talking in the most prosperous nation in this world about whether or not we should have universal health care. We have developed a society in which you have to be really rich in this country to have easy access to health care, to have easy access to opportunities for higher education and tech school, to have easy access to economic opportunities that 50 years ago, just any middle-class person would have. And that is the greater crisis that this healthcare conversation is part of.
Well,
it's a fundamental issue of who this country belongs to and who the resources of this country should be shared with.
Well, if we created a system where everyone was entitled to the best care, there would not be enough. Then we would have to ration care because there's a finite amount of doctors and they have a finite amount of time, so you would...
No, we wouldn't. No, we wouldn't. They don't in other countries, and we wouldn't
Yes, they
either.
do. They wait in very long lines. Canadians come here for expert and professional care because you have to wait, in some cases, years for routine examinations.
You have to wait here sometimes.
Not anything like what they face.
No, if you look at Germany...
Well, here you have to wait, right. If you're in the common pool, if you have money, you can pay for better care. There, because it's... what do you mean, Marianne? There's a finite number of doctors. You can't magically make more healthcare providers go into...
The government can help that, too, as well. The government can do all kinds of grants and loans.
Pour water on the doctor garden and grow more doctors?
With higher educational opportunities, it should be provided. To which it is so expensive to go to medical school.
Well, it is.
Hold on, Robby. nobody has a perfect system. You take, what does New Zealand do? What does Australia do? What does Germany do? What does France do? What does Canada do? None of those countries are American. We could have a task force. We could have a commission. What is the best of all those that we could apply to a system here in the United States? The fact that Canada does not have a perfect system should not be used as an excuse why Americans should not have universal health care. And if higher education was not expensive the way it is, including such things as medical school, we would have plenty of doctors. We have so much, we have such God-given potential in every child born in this country. And we do not place the kind of attention that we should on early childhood, on education, particularly then on higher education. And if we did, we would have more than enough doctors, and we would have more than enough everything to have a country in which so many people are not living with this economic stress that is
I sometimes wonder
so
if we actually have too much. It takes so many. I know it's an important job, and I'm not saying like doctors should be uneducated, but it takes years and years to go through medical school. It's not just money, it's time, it's difficult to train to become a doctor. It takes a lot of education, test taking, and then there's the whole, I don't know how you feel about this. I know people will make this argument that the financial liability you take on via that we need tort reform, that it's way too easy to sue over medical malpractice. That raises the cost of everything. That discourages doctors from going to the field. All of that are improvements I would consider to making it easier to be. I think like you, like to make it easier to become less time-consuming and less expensive to become a doctor. Then we would have more of them, and that would be better.
I don't know about less time-consuming. It's certainly not an area of life where you want people making easy mistakes.
Well, of course
that's
not,
a kind of Elon Musk approach. Not everything should be treated like a business. Let's cut this out. Let's cut that out.
Okay, but if people are not getting if there's not enough medical care to go around because there's not enough doctors because of that, then you're not seeing. Then you're looking at if we had doctors who could get through the training system, become a doctor earlier, you'd have more mistakes. Okay, but you'd also have more doctors, so then you'd have more people getting covered. Like you're only seeing
No, we do not want doctors that were not quite given enough education and enough experience to make sure that it's safe to have them put us under anesthesia and operate on our bodies. This is not some place where we should be cutting corners. Neither you nor I should be suggesting that. We have plenty of reasons. It's a systemic issue.
I am suggesting that.
Pardon?
I am suggesting that. I don't.
You are suggesting that?
Yes, I don't necessarily believe that. You don't think there's a cartel-like protection racket involved? So there is in dentistry for sure. No, I know more about dentistry. The Dentist Association cartel fights any technological innovation in this space, from telehealth, teledentistry. Again, this isn't talking about having underqualified people suddenly giving medical care.
Correct on
it's just industry
and
protection.
And there are medical scams as well as dental care. So I'm not disagreeing on that. I'm just saying as a general belief, we should not be willing to cut corners when it comes to actual training of doctors to do what is safe.
Yeah. Okay. Fun discussion. Stay with us. More Rising right after this.